OK then, new films. Oh no, well, let's see what the cult film is first.
Oh, the cult films, marvellous. Finally, a Caligula, which we've been promising to do for ages and ages. The thing which had prevented us from doing it was that we couldn't get the rights for a clip, because obviously the film is owned by Bob Guccione and the Penthouse Empire are very difficult people to deal with, very serious lawyers. But we have now finally cleared a clip from a scene in the film which I don't think ended up in the version which was shown in Britain originally.
Don't think so, no.
So, that's it. We're going to finally clear the air on Caligula and play you some stuff which you won't have heard before.
And it's hot stuff. It is hot stuff, I tell you.
It is, yes.
It's a good job we're after the watershed.
Yes. It's definitely après le déluge.
Indeed it is. Moistening experience. 1FM, live from the Palace of Gibbering Delights in Manchester. Mark Kermode is here to dissect Caligula.
And possibly reassess. OK. Caligula, probably one of the most notorious movies of the last 30 years, called alternately the most expensive porno movie ever made and the greatest turkey of all time. Probably, most people listening haven't actually got to see the film. It cost anything between 8 million and 14 million. It was the biggest film Italy had ever made at the time, although I'm sure they have made bigger things. And it was panned by critics. It was disowned by the director, who had his name taken off it, disowned by the writer. It was originally called Gore Vidal's Caligula, and he had his name taken off it. It was disowned by the producer, and it was disowned by every single member of the cast, with the exception of John Gielgud.
Yeah, but it's really difficult to sort of disown it if you're in it, isn't it? I mean, if you're the producer or the director, you can take your name off, but if you're in it, there's no hiding place.
Yeah, sadly, they can't morph out the faces of Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mirren, Peter O'Toole.
No matter how much they try and hide themselves up each other's bum cakes.
Which they do try very hard.
Indeed.
They are all there. With the exception of John Gielgud, who did say that when he asked Malcolm McDowell, apparently, he said, "Did you see it?" And Malcolm McDowell said, "No." He said, "Oh, you must go and see it. I've paid to see it twice. It was absolutely marvellous." He loved it.
I mean, now, I'm no great film expert, but would I be right in thinking that there's a Roman theme here?
Yeah, basically, it's the story of, well done, Mark, it's the story of Caligula, who was basically, he declared himself a god and became completely out of control. The original Gore Vidal script is about how all power corrupts. Tinto Brass, however, was the director who was brought on. Tinto Brass, the director of Salon Kitty, and very sort of, but a man who's basically into putting a lot of sex on the screen.
Yeah.
And he thought the film was actually about, on the one hand, the liberating power of sex, and on the other hand, the problem of man's reason. So there's two different films going in different directions. Gore Vidal signs up with Bob Guccione, who's the guy who owns the Penthouse Empire, and Guccione decides that he wants to move into films. They go to Malcolm McDowell, and Gore Vidal says, "We're making Gore Vidal's Caligula." McDowell says, "Absolutely fine." They go to Tinto Brass, who, when they speak to him, is in the middle of a lawsuit trying to prevent Salon Kitty from being released in a cut version. Now, they should have known that the omens were not good right from the beginning. But they got him on board. First thing Tinto Brass did was basically to rewrite the script, and the whole thing started going bananas. It's basically a huge, sprawling, massive epic about one guy going mad, and the reach of his power sort of, shock-waving out throughout an entire society which is declining. There are decapitations, there is rape, there is, all forms of sexual extravagance, both good and bad. There are people appointing their horses as senators. There are people doing unspeakable things behind curtains and people doing speakable things in front of the camera.
So it's like Matthew Bannister's Radio 1.
Absolutely.
In many ways.
I think we should use that as a slogan.
There is apposite.
I want to quote this because this is marvellous. Malcolm McDowell, who did disown the film, and cover your ears if you're worried by the word cock, actually, which is rather blown that anyway. So Malcolm McDowell said that on the first day of shooting, he went there, and John Gielgud said to me, he said, "Have you been out on the set yet?" And Malcolm McDowell said, "No, I haven't." And John Gielgud said, "Oh boy, it's absolutely marvellous. I've never seen so much cock in all my life." And that was his description of, how this was working. There were whole sequences in which, for no reason at all, Tinto Brass got a naked army to charge into a lake. And McDowell, this is all according to a very good interview in Premiere, said to Tinto Brass, "Why are they not wearing armour? Why are they naked?" And Tinto Brass's reply was just, "Cock and arse." That was it. Right. So that was a justification. Now, as we promised you, we have managed to clear the rights to a clip to this. Now, this was not included in the British version of the movie. There were loads of different versions of it, and the British version was actually relatively tame. But this, again, if you're of tender sensibilities, you might find the following clip, which is the orgy sequence about 3/4 of the way through the film, offensive.
Right, here we go.
Citizens of Rome, come ye to the icon of love. Baby.
Hey, you don't sweat much for a fat lad, do you? Sensual stuff, that, I think. There's a cameo appearance by the Walrus of Love there as well, which is nice.
So the question that I know is on your lips is, what went wrong?
What went wrong with it then, Mark?
Post-production wranglings. Basically, Tinto Brass went off and finished the film, and Guccione came back and looked at it and said, there is not enough sex in it, and there's not enough violence in it. It's the fine. Right. What he did was he then got into loggerheads with Tinto Brass, in which he attempted to fire the director. The director took him to court and legally won the right to finish his own film. Guccione, in the meantime, went off and shot a whole bunch of kind of soft-core inserts, which he wanted to put into the film, okay? Because he had the right of final cut. Then it descended into complete chaos. There was 2 years of legal wranglings, and finally the movie came out in a series of different versions. Now, exactly which version is the definitive version, nobody knows. What we do know is that there was a softcore version prepared and a hardcore version. The British censors got hold of Caligula when it came into the country in 1979. It was impounded by Customs, and Customs allowed it to go to the BBFC on the condition that it didn't leave the offices of the British Board of Film Classification, and that all the outtakes, the things that they cut out, had to stay in the office. They couldn't go anywhere else because of the British obscenity laws. So they cut anything between 10 and 14 minutes of the film. What that means is that, I mean, just in my own research, I've tracked down the following versions. There was a 210-minute version shown at Cannes. The MFB lists the original British version as 160 minutes cut to 150. Variety says that the American running time was 150. Hidden Details says the electric video is 141 minutes 46, and the Dutch version is 148. Remember that video runs faster than film, so that could be the 150-minute version. Plus, there is now a restricted 18 version available on video in Britain, which is 79 minutes long. It's the shortest version, and it's absolute tripe.
Right. So are there loads of kind of mythological missing scenes doing the rounds somewhere?
There's a load of stuff that people talk about that actually it does exist. I mean, there are scenes. A lot of it is to do with sexual violence. A lot of it is to do with people being tortured, and there's one rather sort of hideous castration sequence and that kind of thing, which only appears in certain versions of the movies. But there are also many apocryphal stories about, I saw a 4-hour version of it, and it was basically just like a hardcore porno movie, which it never is in any of the versions. It's just that in its... If you could get all the existent footage of Caligula, put it all end to end, get somebody to go in and take out all the rubbish that Guccione put in, all the terrible, because there are literally scenes in it in which you cut between a shot by Tinto Brass, which is magnificent and atmospheric, and then it will cut to 2 penthouse pets shot in a studio in Clapham, probably, right, getting on with something else, which Guccione suddenly... If you could get all the stuff together, take out the rubbish, what you're left with is a brilliant performance by Malcolm McDowell, who is great. I mean, he is absolutely great. Helen Mirren, working with dignity. John Gielgud clearly enjoying the hell out of the whole business. Peter O'Toole misbehaving himself in a bathtub, and it's enjoyable. And somewhere in the middle of the disaster and the mess and the catastrophe that is Caligula, there is a good film trying to get out.
So what, you've got to kind of get all the versions and cut all your own good bits together. That's and try and piece it to a big jigsaw.
Yeah, and of course that's very difficult in Britain, because as far as I know, the only version that's available in Britain legally is this absolutely rubbish Electric Blue 79-minute version, which is like watching a trailer for the movie. Has neither the excessive filth or any of the good acting or any of the good scenes. Is just total tripe from beginning to end.
Right, okay, so what are we going to give away for competition time then?
What we're going to do is we're going to give away some copies of some books or something, I don't know. Okay. But not Caligula.
Or me, Lard, Mark Kermode and John Shuttleworth will come round your house and reenact
that sequence.
All those missing scenes on your sheepskin hearthrug.
We'll send you a tape of that scene.
Right, I think that would be perfect. Okay, right, Mark Kermode on Caligula, and we'll sort out...